I'm very excited to announce that this evening I'm going to be interviewing Lorraine Bell, who's coming to join us virtually, of course, all the way from New York. We met Lorraine last year when we first went out for Tartan Week in New York, and Lorraine is chief of the New York Caledonia Club, as well as being a member of both the New York St Andrews Society and the American Scottish Foundation. So when it comes to all things Scottish in New York, Lorraine knows what's going on. In addition to this, she's also a member of the St Andrews Society of Toronto. You can find out more about that later on this evening. We look forward to welcoming you. Thank you, and thanks for joining us. So Lorraine, you're originally from Winnipeg in Canada, and you've got family here in Glasgow. So how did you come to be in New York?
Well, after I left Winnipeg, I lived in Toronto for 30 years, and my husband Mark took a job in Manhattan, and it was unusual to move at that stage in our lives, but our daughters had gone off to university, and we just decided that we wanted an adventure too. We'd always wanted to live in New York City, and this was an opportunity to do that. So that's how we ended up here.
Yeah, exciting. So have you always celebrated your Scottish roots from a young age, or is this new to you? Or
oh no, it's it was inbred in our family. My mother was the only child of her two Scottish parents. She was actually born in the United Kingdom, and so she missed her Scottish family. She was in Toronto and then Winnipeg as an only child, and so her Scottish heritage was really important to her, and so she empowered that and instilled that in us from the early days of standing outside in Winnipeg at -50 on December 31st at midnight and banging pots and pans for Hogmanay, to Scottish expressions, to Scottish food. To me wearing tartan. I don't have a lot of pictures of myself as a child for some reason, but there are a lot of pictures where I'm dressed in tartan. So it was something that was really important to our family, and my father also has some Scottish roots. That's how my dad's side ended up in Winnipeg, because he had members of his family that immigrated from the Orkney Islands in the late 1700s. So, I have Scottish roots on both sides of my ancestry.
Yeah, and you're wearing your Bell of the Borders sash today.
I am. This is the first time I've worn it, and thank you very much for making this for me. And it's kind of a funny thing, because Bell is actually not. It's an adopted name of our family. So when my great-grandmother's husband passed away, or great-great-grandmother's husband passed away, she married a man named George Bell, who was from Scotland. And so Bell has been in our family for four generations, but it's not really our line, but we're proud to be Bells, and we're proud of George for marrying our great-grandmother, and again, another Scottish link.
Yeah.
So
very good. You've got lots of links.
This is my maple leaf tartan. This tartan was made by the Scotland Shop. This is New York City tartan, also made by the Scotland Shop. This is our Caledonian dress tartan, which is something I wear a lot. This is my McLaren tartan, also made by the Scotland Shop, and this is one of my Lamont tartans. But that's an old one. So those are some of them, and then this is just a cup that was presented to the Caledonian Club on its 50th anniversary in 1906.
In New York, there's 3 different Scottish societies based there. So do they all do the same things, or do they all have different roles? Or
yeah, they all have different roles. So I'll start with the oldest, which is the St Andrews Society, which I'm a member of. The St Andrews Society is actually the oldest cultural organization in New York City. It was founded in 1756, and so it's well established here. And the Scottish St Andrews Society is one where you actually have to have Scottish roots to actually be a member. So it is a lineage-based society.
Mm-hmm.
And they also do a lot of work with shut-ins and Scottish people who need additional support. So the St. Andrews Society is the oldest and has a very specific mission. So the Caledonian Club was founded in 1856. So it's the second oldest Scottish organization in New York City. And it was founded by people who had emigrated to the city who wanted to maintain and keep connections to traditions and Scottish ancestry. And they held a lot of different events here. They bought a building. They had so they had a clubhouse. People that were living in the city who just moved to New York had the opportunity to stay in the building. They made connections for work and for cultural and personal relationship development. And they held Caledonian games. So they were holding Scottish games in the city from the 1850s. I found this medal on eBay recently. I'm going to do it with this hand because it's just easier. Okay.
Yeah. I see it now.
Okay, you can see it. Okay, hang on a second. So I found this on eBay. It was a medal that was to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Caledonian Club. And there's a lot of memorabilia that you can find on eBay. So that was from 1906. Mm-hmm. And so our mission, the Caledonian Club's mission, we no longer own the building, and many organizations that had buildings have since sold them in New York City. Mm-hmm. But we have our own spiritual type of connection. We are an organization that is completely voluntary. The St. Andrews Society and the ASF both have some paid employees. We don't have that. Mm-hmm. We are focused on promoting Scottish culture. So we are the only club in the city that hosts Gaelic speaking language lessons. We are the ones who host the annual Ceilidh during New York Tartan Week. We promote all things Scottish. We're the only club of the three that has our own pipe band. We are the only club that we're now affiliated with, we have our own Highland dance group. So, we try to promote and stick to that lane. Mm-hmm. So it's a different type of organization than the St. Andrews organization and the American Scottish Foundation. And the American Scottish Foundation was founded in 1956, so 100 years. So it's kind of interesting, right? You had St. Andrews 1756, Caledonian in 1856, and the ASF in 1956. Mm-hmm. For some reason, people liked 56, I guess. But the ASF has a different mission. They promote themselves as a club that promotes a bridge to Scotland, whether it's through corporate collaboration or business collaboration or whatever. There's a lot of overlap between the three clubs. Mm-hmm. We do, work together. We work together. The three organizations are the ones who are responsible for putting on Tartan Week, along with Clan Campbell and Carnegie. The Carnegie Foundation was involved up until this past year for a couple of years. But the three main organizations are the St. Andrews Caledonian Club and the ASF, and we're responsible for making sure that Tartan Week is a success in the city. Mm-hmm. And that's where I got to meet you.
Yeah, I know, it was brilliant. We had a great time. Mm-hmm. And so how did you then end up involved with these societies? Were you a member initially and then came to be more involved, or how did that come about?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing. When you grow up with a Scottish mother and you just take certain things for granted, in terms of your culture and your heritage. And growing up in Canada, also, your Scottishness is embedded in everything.
Mm.
You know, our first prime minister was Sir John A. Macdonald. Many of the prime ministers in Canada have Scottish roots, including Prime Minister Trudeau, whose mother is Margaret St. Clair. So he has his St. Clair roots, and he actually owns a kilt, and he does wear it. And so 25% of Canadians identify as having Scottish heritage. That's a lot. I mean, we have a province named Nova Scotia. And so when you live in Canada, it's just embedded in everything. And you can find Scottish food. People understand hogmanay. They understand, the Scottish, they know what a word the ceilidh is. They understand fiddling. They understand a lot of that. And so when I moved to New York, for the first couple of years, when you move to a new city and you're trying to find your way, you look to what is familiar. And so for myself, I look towards joining Canadian organizations and Scottish organizations because that's my heritage. And so I originally just attended the parades and didn't go to any of the other events. So I got more involved, and it just made me, I lost my mother in 2011 as well. So that also drove me more towards having a connection to her and to her background and to the stories she told, and, the stories about her family and the people that I never had a chance to meet. So, I never had a chance to meet my grandparents. They were both deceased by the time I was born. My older brothers had met both of them, but I never had that opportunity. But my mom was really a true Glaswegian gal. She was warm and friendly and talked to everybody and told great stories. And so I think it was probably that, Anna. It was probably me, finding my way in New York City, missing my mom, missing that cultural connection that was just there, that was automatic in terms of food and drink and social activities. And so that's how I got involved. And I just, ended up gravitating towards the Caledonian Club, and, was honored to be appointed its 84th chief last year. So,
yeah. So what does that role involve then? What does the chief, what's your job?
We're an official, not-for-profit organization incorporated in New York State. So we run an appropriate charitable organization. We have monthly board meetings, and we basically, try to come up with programming and ideas that we think will be interesting to our members. And, I participate in other Scottish events when they're in the city. I, support and represent the club at different memorial events. Actually, Memorial Weekend in New York is not this Monday, but the following Monday. And normally we would go and we would lay a wreath on behalf of all of those members in our past who served in various wars. So, my role is to help steer the ship, and make sure that our organization is doing the best that we can for our members and for, the organizations that we interact with, whether it be the Scottish government, who has been extremely helpful to all Scottish organizations in the city. But you have to make sure that you're conducting your business in an appropriate way. So that's the primary role, I think, of myself, or chief cheerleader, I guess, is the other role.
Setting the example. So do you need to be Scottish to join the Caledonian Club? Because you mentioned what do you look for? You know, if I arrive in New York City for myself, I might be Scottish, so I have a good reason to come and join. Can anyone come and join? What's the...
Yes. Just to correct what you said, the St. Andrew Society is the only one where you have to have Scottish ancestry.
Okay.
The ASF, you do not.
Okay.
So the motto, our motto for our club is we're open to the world. So you don't have to be Scottish to belong to our organization. You just have to feel joy or want to interact with people who love things that are Scottish, whether it's going to our pub nights, coming to our Kayleys, going to, I hosted something in our condo at the beginning, in the middle of January. We celebrated Alexander Hamilton's birthday. We host single malt whiskey tasting nights. We try to connect back to our Scottish roots. We if there are events going on in the city that have a Scottish connection, we promote them within our club. So, ours is a really good club to join if you want to be involved in a lot of social activities.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing that I love about our organization. I've gotten to meet a lot of people that I wouldn't have otherwise met in the city from all different kinds of backgrounds. And, one of our members of our board, like we have a lot of people on our board we have people that are Dutch, we have people that are from the islands, we have people that are have Filipino background, so you don't have to be a Scot to be a member of the Caledonian Club. You just have to love Scottish things.
Love a
which is not hard.
No. There is a real trend just now for exploring your roots, uncovering your heritage, that kind of thing. Do you think that's helped membership of the club, and do you see that continuing, or is it a faddy thing? I feel like it's something that's going to stay with us. But how do you feel about that?
Well, one of the things you might not know about me, Anna, is I'm also a professional genealogist. So
I didn't know.
So I'm a member, and I'm a trustee of the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society, which is the second oldest biographical genealogical society in the United States. It's 150 years old, and it's something that is from my perspective is not a trend. I mean, it's something that people are more and more interested in, and part of it is because when people originally immigrated to this country or to Canada or to Australia or to New Zealand or wherever they've immigrated, and I'm talking about people who tend to be Scottish, so they tend to go to other English-speaking countries. I know that's a generalization, but that's the truth. I think that as you get away from your direct connection to your background, you start to explore, why do I do these things that I do? Or how did this become part of our family's tradition? Or, as we become more global, the opposite is also happening. We're becoming more local. So to me, local also means delving deep into your own background and understanding, why you ended up in a certain place. Like I remember my nephew, my second oldest nephew, asking me once, why did we end up in Winnipeg? And I was lucky enough to be able to tell him the whole story as to both sides of the family, my dad's side and my mother's side, and how they ended up there. Because, it's like, would you choose to move to Winnipeg? And the answer was, well, Winnipeg didn't exist when our first relatives arrived. It wasn't there. There was no, that we were part of the founding of the province of Manitoba, and we should be proud of that. And, but we kind of lost a lot of those stories along the way. There was a time I think in familial backgrounds where people stopped talking about their background.
Yeah.
When they moved away, They just didn't want to talk about it. They wanted to just embrace their new country and their new roots, and they didn't want to reconnect with where they came from. But I think that as the world has gotten more global and people are much more, I would use the word transient, that we have this mobility ability that kind of forces us to start to think about our backgrounds.
Yeah.
So it's not a trend anymore.
No, I would totally agree. Okay. So when do you come back to Scotland much then? Have you been?
I do. Yeah. I was just there, as you know, in October.
Yeah.
And, I try to get back every 1 or 2 years. I would go more frequently if I could. But I also have family in Canada that I have to see. Yeah. And I have business travel and other things. So it's hard to always choose Scotland as my first choice, even though it is always my first choice.
And what do you love when you come back then? What are the things you seek out when you come back?
That's a really interesting question. I don't seek anything. I just come to I just feel at home there. The first time I went, I took my mother in 1988 when I was pregnant at the time. I didn't know I was expecting twin girls. I knew I was expecting, but I didn't know I was expecting twins. And I took my mom on a trip, and it was one of the nicest things that we ever did together. And it was my husband's idea. He said, "Look, I think you should take your mom back to Scotland and England, because she also had some family there. And because this is the last time that you're just going to be her daughter, and the last time she's going to be your mom. Things are going to change after you have a baby. She's going to be grandma, you're going to be a mom, and then you're going to," and so he really wanted us to go. And we did. We went for 3.5 weeks, and it was just so incredible. Like, we started out in London, and then we took the train up to Edinburgh. And as soon as we crossed the border, it just felt right. My mom, cried, and I felt the same thing she felt. So when I go, I'm not seeking to do things. I'm just seeking to be there.
Yeah. And
to feel the parts of myself that I love, and Scots and Canadians have a lot in common. We love nature. We love being out. We understand seasons. I couldn't live anywhere where when there's no seasons for me, I feel disconnected. Yeah. I want the winters. I want the wind. I want the beauty of the cold. It sounds kind of strange, but I love that. I love the fact that the Scottish foods reflect the climate. They reflect. I grew up having every morning when I woke up, there'd be a double boiler on the stove with oatmeal, so that, and it was particularly appreciated in Winnipeg when you got up in the morning in the winter times and it was dark, just like Scotland. We have the same sort of latitude. You'd have oatmeal, which would warm you up and sustain you. It was inexpensive. So if you had a family of 4 children, like we did, there was something that was nutritious that you could have that would start you on your way. We always ate it we always put salt in our oatmeal, and my mother always had it with a pat of butter and brown sugar and cream. So it was
really good to you.
Yeah, it was. We always had cream in the house. I mean, cream and butter and were so important to my mom. But you think about it, right? So you had oatmeal, You had whiskey to keep you warm. You had soups that have, were made from the bounty of the country side and the ocean side. And so when I go to Scotland, those are just things that I gravitate towards. Like,
yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing Cullen skink on every menu. I'm looking forward to having, a fine single malt that I wouldn't necessarily find in New York. I'm looking forward to, proper Scottish salmon. I'm looking forward to those kinds of things that I grew up with. I didn't grow up with salmon because we were in the dead center of Canada. So there was we didn't have that, but we had other types of fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really seek though. I just seek being there. It sounds kind of silly, but
no, I think that I feel the same when I go, when you go away and then you come back, and I definitely feel, having travelled a bit, that you come back to Scotland with a whole new appreciation for your culture and your country, and I think when we come out to New York, then I feel more Scottish than ever before, but it just really brings it home to me how lucky we are and what we just have around us. It's nothing in particular, but I know exactly what you mean about that. Just that feeling
and it's also the people. Again, I find a generalization. I know it's a generalization, but I find that Scottish people and the Canadian sort of psyche are very similar.
Yeah.
Right. We Canadians try not to stand out too much.
Yeah.
Scots we're not chest thumpers. We're not those people, and we don't really appreciate people that act that they're better than you. And we also, I think both peoples are kind of humble and modest. They don't flaunt all their successes. And I like that part about being in Scotland. I like the fact that, you can go anywhere, you feel comfortable, you are welcomed. You're basically, embraced. And so that's nice as well. And it's really good. It's always good to see my family and my friends. So.
Yeah, good. So last year was the first time we ever did Tartan Week, and I think, felt that what you feel well in Scotland, and we certainly felt very welcome in New York, and everyone was really good to us, and it felt like everyone was really excited to see us, which was great. So tell us more about Tartan Week then, and obviously you were saying before, it's in all the different societies are involved in making that a success. I know this year was a bit of a challenge, but I still think it was an amazing success virtually. So tell us a bit more about what you take from Tartan Week, what you love about it, what are your favourite moments?
Well, I happen to, when Tartan Week comes, I'm full on the entire week. I don't, one of my hashtags and what I'm known for, my friends call me Team No Sleep. And I just love the energy of it. I love the fact that I get to meet people from Scotland who've, they plan to come all year, and they get to New York, and they just have a blast. I love the fact that I interact with people from all backgrounds, all age groups, demographics. There's no you're this age, so you're not going to go out, or you're too, there's none of that. There's total and complete acceptance of people. And I obviously I'm biased, but I really love our Ceilidh. I always went to the Caledonian Ceilidh, even when I wasn't a club member. But I think I joined after the first one, because it's fun. And it's, it does embrace our Scottish culture. I like all of the events. I like the kirking of the tartan for the St. Andrew's Club. They have which I think is really interesting, because I think a lot of people who don't have Scottish backgrounds or didn't grow up in a very strong Scottish home wouldn't even have understood what that was, and which I did. And I enjoy that. I enjoy going to all of the different events that happen in the city. And I just think it's an opportunity for, Scotland to really show itself to New York. And New York is a great big international city. And, many people get exposed to things that they wouldn't necessarily otherwise see. I think our parade is fantastic. It's a different type of parade. It's short and sweet and beautiful. And, there's a lot of love on the streets. The piping is fantastic. And it's just a good week. Somebody also called it my spring break. And I said, yeah, it is kind of my equivalent. I planned for it. I had friends coming this year. I had my first cousin was coming all the way from, British Columbia to join in because she just has seen all the fun that I've been having, and she wanted to come. She was bringing a friend. I had somebody coming in from Texas. I had people coming in from Scotland, and it was just, it was obviously extremely disappointing not to go through with it together. But, we made the best of it and did our virtual tartan day on April the 6th. And it was a good success.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like being together.
No,
I'm for one who's just saying, okay, like everybody's talking about how this virtual thing is kind of working. And I'm thinking, no.
That's exactly what. Yeah, I'm exactly.
No, like we're managing, but no, this can't be how we're going to operate in the future. I don't want it to operate like this.
No, you need the warmth of the people around you, definitely.
Yeah.
No, and we couldn't believe it when we came, and I think you think of the parade as a one-off thing, but actually it is a whole week of activity, isn't it? And all sorts of different things, so many different things and different people, and it was. And I think having been the first time and then realised what a fantastic party opportunity it was as well. We were very much geared up this year, ready to be Team No Sleep. But we'll save that up for next year, and we'll do double.
Yeah, I mean, we missed. I mean, there's performances. Like, I had friends that were going to be performing, who were coming over from Scotland. Angel Star, and then the Highland Divas. Good friends.
Yeah.
They were performing. Craig Weir was going to be here. The Whiskey Kiss was coming. Like, there's Clana Drama. Like, there were so many people, coming, and of course the Jarl squads from Shetland were coming, and it was just really, it was heartbreaking actually, not to be able to be together, but we all understood the reasons why we couldn't, and that just means next year's going to be a smashing success.
Definitely. We're already planning. Oh, now this is my New York jacket that I have.
I know, and you've got the New York tartan behind you.
Got that behind me. We've got New York Ted here. We've got Canadian Ted as well, though.
Oh, I'm going to have to get some of those.
And then your bell tartan. So
you're going to need to do half and half for me.
Okay. We can do Ted half and half. Yes, definitely. No problem. Well, thank you very much, Lorraine, for joining us today and sharing all your insights and stories. We wish you and your family a very safe next few months in recovery from this horrible virus. And we look forward to coming out, not virtually, definitely coming out ourselves and seeing you all again soon in New York.
Well, thank you, Anna, for having, and Emily for having me. It's been kind of nice. I actually, been getting a little slovenly around the house, but it was so it was really nice to be able to put on a tartan. And this pin, actually, I don't know if you can see it, but that's a Caledonian pin.
Oh.
So it's been passed down from chief to chief, and I love this pin.
Yeah.
And I even put on a dress, and I put on heels, and it was like, my husband said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going on a virtual trip to Scotland."
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you've enjoyed your virtual trip.
Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, take care.